the only things notable about Canberra is you can smoke weed, we make wine, we do politics, and we make porn.
Hello everyone, my name is David and welcome to YoungStars, the show where I interview young Australian talent about their experiences working in film, theatre, stage, music, etc. But in reality, it's just me talking with my mates about our love for the creative arts industry. I hope you're all doing well and excited for today's episode because we have quite the bizarre yet exciting episode, honestly, as we are joined by our first filmmaker on the podcast, Taylor Thomson. Now, I've known Taylor for the past 2 years now, as we both studied film at AIE, the Academy of Interactive Entertainment. And since then, he's become one of the most reliable, hardworking, and trustworthy filmmakers I've ever had the privilege working with. You might know Taylor for his genius and bizarre storytelling in his short films like Speak to Me, Empty House, and Behind Enemy Mimes, as well as his work on Arca, Final Goal, True Purpose, and many more. Yeah, I had a great time talking with Taylor today as I got to learn a little bit more about his interest in filmmaking, his fascination with writing horror and thriller, and both our personal experiences watching our first ever horror films. We also dive into his decision on creating his own media company, Evil Gazebo Media, with his close friend Sarah, as well as his love for the world of Dungeons and Dragons, and how, surprisingly, he got me into Dungeons and Dragons. Now, before we begin, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I really, really do appreciate it. If this is your first time listening to the podcast and you like what you hear, please consider following the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast fix. If you're watching the YouTube video, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss an episode, as well as any future projects of mine. Okay, with that being said, let's dive on into the episode with Taylor. How does it feel to be the best filmmaker in the class?
Don't say that. I don't know, like, hold on, I'm gonna need a moment to think about. I don't know. I'm the type of person that I find it really hard to take a compliment because I fall victim to that thing any creative person does, in that they see every tiny flaw in their own work. So it can be a little hard for me to believe people when they compliment my stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have. This sounds cheesy. I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. Mm-hmm. Filmmaking isn't something that one person can do. It's inherently a team activity.
Absolutely.
Unlike like painting or whatever, like you cannot go at it alone. And if you think you can, you're a dumb fuck, to put it kindly.
Yeah. Okay, well, hi Taylor, how you doing?
Hey, this got off to a good start.
That was actually the first thing. I was like, I'm gonna make it funny and gonna make it put on the spot. Like, that's gonna be the first question I have.
Excellent start. But yeah, I'm happy that I won that, even though I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, but not for the film that you were expecting, though.
Yeah, I find it interesting that Speak to Me won. I feel that my other film, Empty House, is a far stronger film. It does a lot more in a lot less time. And because I made Empty House later, it sort of reflects what I like more. There was a lot in Speak to Me where I felt like I was still developing what I want as a director or what I want as a filmmaker, and I was still developing those communication skills in filmmaking. So yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we first met 2 years ago, actually. 2 years ago at
that long.
Yeah, at AIE. But what's funny enough is that I actually met your sister before I met you.
Yeah.
And I only came to the realization that you were Bronte's brother because your last name, I was like, hang on, there's no way you're related.
It's a small world, man. Canberra's a small town.
It doesn't help that you also went to the same college, but different time.
Yeah.
Because you went to in 2018, 2019?
Look, I'm terrible at remembering dates. That I'm just gonna say sure. That sounds about correct. I'm horrible about that kind of thing. Like, there are times where I'm like, what? How old am I again? Time's passing too fast, man.
Yeah. Well, we first met at AIE 2 years ago, and I remember meeting you and being like, this guy's the shy guy. You're definitely one of the shy guys in the class.
I take time, like, I don't have trust issues, but it takes time for me to really like open up with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a little reclusive. Well, not quite, but
I mean, definitely in the first 7 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
I think leading up to the production of My Own 2 Feet, I think that's where you definitely shone a lot.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I feel like I don't want to shill too much here, giving free advertising. But I feel that making films and like getting this freaking what it feels like undeserved praise. Anyway, like making films, seeing that I can make stuff has been a bit of an ego booster.
Yeah.
Not in the bad way. Maybe in the bad way, actually. I don't want to get too big ahead about it.
Well, I mean, your interest in films, because like from the time I met you, I was like, this guy's definitely the shy guy, but definitely I think later on to the year, I'm like, I see the creative potential because I think out of any of the guys in the class, I worked with you the most.
Yeah, probably.
I built that trust between you and myself, and I felt like this is the guy. Even outside, once we're done here, I want to work with more because you are absolutely talented.
Here we go again. Flattery. Like, thanks. Thank you.
I mean, you're absolutely talented. You absolutely did deserve being best film. I mean, it's very funny that we all in the class at the graduation
was hilarious.
we all made assumptions that, oh, who's it going to be? Oh, it's going to be Taylor. It's definitely going to be Taylor. If it's no one else, it's going to be Taylor. Like, it's either
That's
you,
funny.
Doug, Michael.
If I was a betting man, I would have bet against myself. That like I bet Michael, that guy.
Because you can't
I love
take a
that guy.
compliment. You can take a compliment of being like,
No, Michael's a fucking machine. Or Doug. Actually, no, Doug is a fucking machine.
he is an absolute beast when it comes to filmmaking. Like, he can edit a film faster than I can put, like, assemble a thing together.
Doug is a crotchety old man, but I love the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love him. And it was so nice to see him, like, as of recording this last Friday.
Yeah. It was cool seeing him at the graduation. It is funny seeing him without his beard, though. Still getting used to that.
I mean, you saw him without his beard at Enlighten, at Lights Camera Action.
Yeah, but like that was at like evening. The light's a little dim. I couldn't get a good look at him. So the graduation was really the first time I could get a good look at him.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
If you're listening to this, Doug, you look good.
he definitely will. But I think during that time, like AIE, it was quite it had some ups and downs, but it was still quite an incredible journey for us.
Yeah. I feel that because we were the first cohort to be put through that, a little rough around the edges, that's to be expected. But because I'm going to be really cheesy here.
Okay.
Because of how like rough it was, I would argue that it made us better filmmakers because
Really?
because like
The creative freedom that we had a lot more Dan.
let's call it that. It's also the kind of like trial by fire. Like this is gonna fucking suck, but learning to deal with the situation that fucking sucks is an important lesson because filmmaking is a funny industry because you will fuck it up and you will fail over and over. That's just like a part of the process.
Absolutely. And there were plenty of times at AIE where we all thought, like, this wasn't gonna work. Like,
Oh yeah, we fucked up a few times. Like I still feel kind of bad about Maggie's film.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there were so many of last year's films that it didn't even get finished. We don't even know if they're done. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be honest. Behind Enemy Mimes is still in editing hell.
yes.
That's on my to-do list.
I mean,
I don't know. I just want it done right. I'm the type of I have like the dumbest flavor of perfectionism possible, where like I will refuse to do something unless I can guarantee I can do it perfect.
yeah.
Or like I will refuse to put something out until like it reaches this like arbitrary standard of like goodness.
I mean, compare it to so much of like, because that was one of the first films you made at AIE. That was like your first director, and that was me producing it. And
Yeah, it would have been.
I realized during that shoot, like being the producer, I didn't want to produce again.
Producing's hard.
I absolutely hated it because, like, to be honest, it was the only time, and the only reason I did it was because it was part of our curriculum.
Yeah.
Like it was, you had to do producing at least once. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it done here, so I don't have to do it for the rest of the year. And I realized very quickly, I am not suited for producing at all.
Yeah, it's like that sometimes.
But you get into it though.
Yeah, producing's funny because I will admit. Well, no, I won't admit that I'm not the best. I'm literally the best ever. No one's better than me. Well, so much for not getting a big head. But yeah, producing's hard. As a producer, you are carrying the project on your back, and it has far less of the glamour, far less of the the general public. If you ask like a random guy on the street for famous producers, like they're only going to be able to say like two people or so. Like
Yeah, they're gonna say Steven Spielberg, and that's it.
and even then, Spielberg like directs sometimes.
Yes,
so like
he directs.
that's cheating.
Yeah, he directs and produces a lot of things. And that's not just hate on Steven Spielberg. He's a great man, great director.
Yeah.
It's just like on every major Hollywood project, you can see him like, oh, he produced this. Yeah.
So yeah, this one goes out to the producers out there. I love you, and you deserve as much recognition as the directors.
Absolutely, because producers have more control. They absolutely have more control on set. Like the director has the vision, but the producer is the one that keeps it intact. And I think you're really good at doing that. You're really good at making things. Well, sometimes, because like most of the chaos that comes on from the set is us bickering, especially.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a whole bunch of can of worms. But during those 2 years, everyone knew this. Like the moment you pitched, like Behind Enemy Minds, like the bizarre creative mindset of Taylor Thomson, and then the brilliance of Speak to Me, because I remember you cried during your what pitch for Speak to Me.
That's a funny thing over that. I was having a bad week.
Yeah.
There was a little chunk of time during that course where, like, I wasn't in a particularly great state of mind, I'll put it that way. And that's just, like, a human thing. And I'll use the excuse that, like, I was a student. I was still learning. How to deal with that stuff. I feel that now, though, I've come out the other end for the better, though.
I mean, I really did like the pitches that you always did. Like, everyone would admit, like, when it came to you, like, everyone else in the class, they had good pitches. But when it came to you, they were like, okay, what's Taylor cooking up? What has he got planned? And then when you talked about Speak to Me, I was like, I want to be on this film as editor or as sound. I want to do both, which I ended up doing, and I absolutely loved it. Because the thing with Speak to Me, it came out so good, not just because, like Dan had previously said, because of Mason's cinematography, which that was great. That was absolutely great, and was the main reason we won the best film. But it also came out really good because we sat down a lot during post-production to make sure that it came out the best it could.
We polished that turd until it shined.
Yes, we absolutely did. When it was like cutting down scenes to make it work, to fit the 7-minute limit, or even going back last year just to fix some of the tweaks that we had from the original red carpet.
Yeah. I'm happy we did that. It came out a lot stronger after polishing it up a bit.
Yeah.
Tightening it up.
Yeah. But I kind of want to get to know you because I don't know much about your interest in filmmaking before going to AIE. Like, I think I know a little bit, but where did the fascination for filmmaking come for you?
I would say it sort of started for me as, I don't know, I am the type of person where if I cannot do something creative, I will go insane. Like I will like start pulling my fucking teeth out and like bashing my head against a brick wall.
Just pulling your teeth out like
So yeah, I started, funny enough, as a drama kid because I knew I wanted some involvement in entertainment, but I didn't quite have a great idea as to what I wanted exactly. Like at that point. So yeah, started as a drama kid, thought I wanted to be in front of the camera. Had a bit of fun with that. But yeah, it wasn't for me. As time went on, I found that the part I enjoyed more is the storytelling, is the more behind the camera stuff, like the script writing, directing. That whole process is a fucking blast.
And absolutely, that is your strong point. Like even when it came to some of the from Empty House to Speak to Me, even Mimes to some extent, you could see your creative vision and storytelling. I think Empty House definitely is definitely stronger film out of all the films you made and directed. But your writing, like certain elements that when it came to the writing, absolutely can be seen across all 3 films. Even the episode you wrote for Arca. Like, I don't know, we can't really talk about much about it, but you did episode 2. No,
the numbers escape.
You did
right now.
No, you did 5.
It was 5
you did
for
5.
sure.
You did 5, which was the episode I did, which was the episode I originally put down to edit.
5-2. I had a big part in.
You basically had
that was the one with the monster.
Yeah.
And was 3 the murder mystery one?
Okay, so in order of like when we originally wrote them, yes. 3
Anyway.
was the murder mystery. Again, we can't really talk about it because it isn't released, but if you have seen Arca from the red carpet, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew immediately I wanted to edit it 5 because I was like, this is Taylor's writing. I know how.
Yeah, that was my baby.
Yeah. But you didn't really help with like editing that scene because like I knew exactly what to go, and we knew that things would rearrange, like certain elements in this episodes would change over time.
Yeah.
But it was kind of interesting because even again, it is so interesting to see your different vision because you're definitely a horror and thriller filmmaker.
Yeah.
Why? Like why are you so focused on like what's your interest? Because I understand like. Well, actually, Mimes is definitely different because it's an action. It's more.
It's an action comedy.
Action comedy, but then horror for Speak to Me and thriller for Empty House.
Yeah, horror's a funny thing with me. When I was a kid, I could not handle horror. I was a little wimp baby, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't handle horror as much.
And I would say the first film to make me like shit bricks, like to actually scare me, was the movie Gremlins.
Oh really? Gremlins?
Yeah.
What made it? Why? What about Gremlins that made you shit your pants?
That was probably the first horror movie I saw. Now that I think about it, just like the little gremlins freaked the shit out of me. And it's funny because I didn't get about to rewatching it until like.
Few years ago?
Like last year, pretty much. Not because I was scared of it, just because like I didn't want to spoil that memory of like how much that movie made me shit myself.
But it's a good movie. It's a good movie. But
I like it. It's fun.
I get it. Like I understand why it would be considered like your first horror film, but like it's more of a PG. It's more of like an M horror film.
Honestly, it's not really a horror film. It's more of a comedy, I would say. Like
with light horror elements.
yeah. It's a horror themed comedy.
Yeah.
Um.
I'm gonna say this because I don't watch much horror, but I think the first horror movie I actually sat down to fully watch, was actually Sissy. That was actually the first one I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch a horror. I think it was because like I hadn't really watched any other horror films. Like I'd watched like Dead Meat's Kill Counts and such, but I never really was like going out to watch a full on horror. Like horror films, horror short films, absolutely fine with. But I hadn't actually sat down and watched a full on horror film until I watched Sissy.
I'm gonna hijack this and I'm gonna flip the script.
Okay, go ahead.
What is your relationship with horror films? Like,
so like in my household, my parents didn't particularly allow me and my sister to watch that much scary stuff, because they didn't like influencing us and didn't exactly want us to get invest in it. Like, well, not invest, but more or less like having that mindset or getting scared to the point where like, because I was a very scared child. My sister was a lot braver than I am. Like, I would be the very scared. I was scared of going to the Doctor Who experience in Cardiff because of the monsters, and I had never even seen the show.
that's fun.
But I had wanted to go into there, and I was scared because of like just of the creatures, despite the fact like I had never actually seen the show.
Huh.
But again, horror for me, it's very interesting. I always would look up on horror on, like I said, Dead Meat. I'd watch their kill counts, but they were always recapping the stories. They would always like tell what happens with the kills. They'd go behind the scenes. They wouldn't actually show much of like the full film. They would have like they used clips from the film, but they wouldn't they wouldn't just have the film play.
Yeah, of course. That's interesting. That's fun.
Like, as of right now, I think I am starting to watch a little bit more horror because like I watched Alien with you guys.
I love that film.
I did like I watched even at Canberra Short Film Festival, went to the horror night and all that because you were going and I had to do some stuff for that. And I was just like, don't know why I went on the horror night because I wasn't exactly strong with horror.
Yeah.
But then I started watching like the Chucky series on 9 Now because that's the only place you can watch the new Chucky series.
Yeah.
And then as of recently, I've actually just watched Megan. Do you know Megan, the Blumhouse?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah,
It was okay.
Well, like
I'm picky.
yeah,
I
watched the unrated cut, so I saw like the blood stuff than the M version that it was. Which I'm happy that I did because I was like, this is actually like the first bit of the film. I was like, don't really get it, but when it got later on and Megan was introduced and all that kind of stuff, so like, wow, this is actually getting really good.
So where would okay, I've completely hijacked your podcast.
No, this is actually really good.
Where would you say that puts you now then? Like
Horror wise?
Yeah, like would you consider yourself a horror fan?
Not really. Like, I think I need to get into the more, like, the bigger franchises. Like, I need to still watch Scream. I still need to watch a bit of Nightmare on Elm Street. I need to watch, like, some Friday the 13th. But I don't think I'm really interested in that. I'm more interested in Scream. I want to actually watch Scream because I've borrowed the DVD, like, from the library several times, but I've never gotten around to watching it because I've been so busy.
Yeah. I feel that. I have a massive list of films on my like stuff I need to watch list. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, there's certain horror films I'm just like, that's a bit too much. That's not my cup of tea. There's some films I'm like the early 1970s or 1980 films. I'm just like, I could handle that. That's cheesy fun. That's some cheesy fun.
We gotta show you a fucking Serbian film.
No.
Cannibal Holocaust, whatever it's called.
I'm not watching like some of the more disturbing stuff. Like there's certain bits of horror I'm just like, I cannot handle. Like there is some bits I'm just like, oh, I can handle this. This is fine. Like I went to go see the FNAF movie last year, and yeah, that movie is an M film and it's for kids.
Yeah.
But I saw it in an extreme screen, and I had I had one of the best experiences watching that movie because there was a group of teenage girls, like just a few seats away from me, and they were terrified as fuck. They were like, oh no, no. And I was just like,
bet that was their first horror movie.
I was just like, how is this scary? It's Five Nights at Freddy's.
It's funny you bring up the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and like how it is a horror movie for kids effectively, because I feel that the horror for kids like subgenre it's not as healthy as it used to be. Like I feel like way back when you had like Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark and that kind of thing.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel that horror for kids is starting to die off, and I really feel that I want to bring it back, man.
Yeah,
like
it's those horror films that are classified like PG, but parents would be like, this is your first horror film, like this is your deep dive, like your first dive into horror films.
Yeah,
it's got scary elements, and it is like a family film, like Coraline, or even what's it? It's another stop motion one. I forget what it is. It's not Frankenweenie. It's Paranorman. That kind of stuff.
Yep, that film.
Those
My
are
mom
like
likes
the
that film.
animation, like those are animated films. Like even Nightmare Before Christmas. That's considered like a bit of a horror, but it's also
I love that film.
it's just a Christmas film as well. Like there's so many films that are classified as like PG that are just like, this has got a lot of horror elements that scare a lot of little kids. And then, like you said, there's a bunch of like the M-rated films like Megan or Five Nights at Freddy's that have recently come out that have done extremely well, and definitely be like, okay, this is definitely a dive into what kids could watch. And then there's the whole M and R-rated stuff.
Mark my words, I want to make something that's horror for kids at some point.
Okay.
I reckon that would be fun.
Like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, or is that more?
I would argue that's targeted at adults, but it's like kid.
It's like the
themed.
It's like the young adult genre as well. Like, there's stuff like online, like there's Murder Drones or like that kind of stuff that's got horror elements, but it's more for young adults, like teenagers and such. There's not just straight for kids.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of want to backtrack.
Yeah, I'm sorry for hijacking your whole thing.
I really wanted to learn like your interest in horror and stuff. So that's really, really good. One of the things I kind of want to talk about with AIE in particular, like that whole time as a film, doing the film course, like was besides doing producing, like was there any other? Excuse me.
We cut that out.
Oh, we'll see how I feel about it. We'll probably cut it out. Like I said, we were gonna talk about AIE and such, like all the other elements and everything. Was there any particular, before you went there, was there anything particular skill-wise that you were like, I want to learn a lot more about?
When I started, I thought I would be more interested in camera stuff than I wound up being. I still love like DOPing and that kind of thing. It's fun as like a little side thing, but I would say that my favorite area, and if I do say so myself, my strongest area is in writing and directing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, the crafting of the story itself is where I excel.
Yeah. Do you always find it hard to reach the mid, like beginning, middle, and end kind of proportions, like the climax when it comes to writing? Like, do you find that kind of difficult at certain points? You're like, I know how it should start. I'm not so sure about the middle. I know how it should end in some way, shape, or form.
My writing style is frankly fucking psychotic. So my brain with storytelling works really fucking weird. Like I will have like certain events, certain like set pieces, certain shots that I will want.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm always like that too.
And then like after I decide like I want these things should happen, then it's about stringing those events together in a way that has like an amount of thematic cohesion or like makes any modicum of sense. And then after I get that basic structure down, then like run through it again, start to end, chuck anything that doesn't fucking make sense. Kill your babies.
What? Kill your babies? What?
Yeah, that's an expression that's like if you have like something within an art piece that you're obsessed with, but is ruining the piece as a whole, kill it. Get rid of it.
Okay,
If it's ruining the greater piece,
I've
kill it
never
off.
heard that term before. Like, I
Yeah.
never heard "kill the babies" before. It just sounds so weird out of context.
Yeah, it's blunt, but it gets the point across.
Well, it's interesting because, like, over the 2 years, I saw you grow over those 2 years, and even now, because recently we worked together on Final Goal, which is the short film that got into Lights Camera Action, and I'm very happy that you were completely on board to help because at this point we hadn't really found many people, and any of our other friends who were working.
Yeah.
They were either already working on LCA projects or were already like Doug, as you previously mentioned. He's a working machine. He edited 2, I think, films for LCA.
It was 2 or 3, something like that.
I got in contact to see many of the our friends and such. Most of them were already on shoots. I was like, oh, that really sucks. And so I got contact with you because I didn't know if you were working on anything, and I was just like, I was happy that you did.
Yeah.
But even that entire experience, that was stressful.
The way that turned out is like fucking miraculous. Like I had just ordered my camera in.
Yeah.
And if I had ordered my camera a week later, I would not be comfortable helping out with the film. Like I would have had the camera in my hands, but I wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn it. So yeah, it is miraculous the way that turned out.
Yeah. I mean, we were an exceptionally small crew. Like, besides Caitlin, who produced the film but also starred in it, you and I were basically the only 2 people besides Josh who arrived on the second day too.
Real MVP.
Yeah. He allowed us to use his sound kit for day 1, but that meant I had to double roles as both director, a bit of AD as well, but also doing sound, which is a pain when you have such a small crew.
It sucks.
But hearing from some of the other some of the other groups, apparently they had a bit of trouble and such.
Yeah, I think all things considered, it went far smoother than it had any right to be.
I mean, because I think at this point we had worked so much together. I was just like,
I'm pretty happy with
I know how
outcome.
Taylor works. You know how I work. I was just like, I can definitely do this. We can definitely do this. And I am so happy that I got into the top 12 because
we made it work.
We were straight out of AIE. We had straight out from AIE. We had not graduated officially, but we had just we had just got out.
Yeah.
And this was the first film that we made.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty fun.
Yeah. Another thing I kind of want to go back to the horror elements because there's so much about you when it comes to your storytelling that I'm just like, how much of it is influenced by your interest in mythology or even Dungeons and Dragons? Because you're quite the D&D guy. You were quite the D&D guy in the class.
Yeah. D&D is, funny enough, funny you bring that up. That is one of the things that helped me realize that I adored storytelling. That whole side of it. D&D and other tabletop games are, I think, a excellent tool to help people and young people in particular develop
the world
Give me a
and
moment.
stories for characters.
And it can help a lot with thinking on your feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Improvisation.
Any in particular to why D&D? Because again, you could just follow the basic structure of the format and go from starting in a tavern to just killing a dragon, end of campaign.
Yeah.
But then you go on to create these massive worlds and all these different characters and such.
I'm a weird contrarian. I refused to use the default setting. I made my own fucking setting, realized that was too hard, then started using a third-party setting. That original setting of mine, I like it. It sort of reflected my love of alt history at the time. It was very much inspired by Bloodborne. So like very like gothic horror themed, and a setting I ended up running later was a one based off of like gothic horror and like dark German fairy tales.
Yeah.
Enough about D&D.
No. I kind of want to talk about D&D
Okay,
because
sure.
because you got me into D&D.
Yeah.
You were incredibly surprised when I said like I'd never
Yeah.
played D&D before.
I'm shocked you didn't try it earlier. Like it
Because-
is so up your alley.
Yeah, it is. Like because you looked at me and you're like, "Have you ever played D&D before?" I was like, "No." He's like, "You look like the guy who plays D&D."
Yeah,
I've just never considered it.
No, I refuse. You're like the only drama kid on earth that has not played D&D, frankly.
Am I really? Until now?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
until last year when our good friend Dan asked us, "Hey, do you want to do a campaign of Pathfinder?"
Yeah.
I was just like,
It was
"Yeah,
a little
sure, why
dungeon.
not? I'll give it a try because I've never played D&D before. I had actually seen the D&D movie earlier that year, and I thought it was great. And I was just like, yeah, I'll give it a go. Why not? Because I've never got into it. After the first session, I immediately got it. I
Yeah.
immediately understood why it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's collaborative storytelling.
Yeah. And despite the fact that it didn't last that long, the campaign was only like 4 sessions.
It was like one dungeon, so
Yeah, it was one
something
dungeon,
like that.
but it was like over 4 different sessions. And it was just so much fun because you remember the amount of like silly like stuff that happened? Like
Antics.
specifically, you nearly died and we were able to get your ass back out
Yeah.
of the dungeon just so you could survive.
Yeah,
Because we didn't want to be like, hey, we're going to get a new character next campaign. No.
Yeah.
No. We're keeping you alive because we were just like, there's no way. We were both me and Jim and yourself
Yeah.
were so low. They were like, okay, we got to retreat.
yeah,
That's stupid Cobalt.
it's silly.
The amount of fun, like, experiences, like, I remember getting probably my favorite moment was the fireball. Like, my massive using,
Yeah,
what's the stuff? Burning hands on
Burning Hands,
a
yeah.
group of 5 kobolds and able
Yeah.
to kill like 4 of them.
I'll let you in on a little secret.
Okay.
So that dungeon that Daniel ran for us is a pre-written adventure,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest here, and sorry if you're listening to this, Daniel. I have played at least part of that dungeon
Yeah.
before in a previous game.
I knew that it was pre-written as well.
Yeah. Granted, you did give it a different spin, so like,
Yeah.
it was.
I mean the whole cobalt with the with the voice, the voices we get.
I tried to not metagame.
One of the funniest experiences was like the whole like cobalt like being like, let the cobalt live, and we just had the whole voice of yes, lad, the whole time.
God, that bit.
I have the video, and you just was like,
Yeah.
and this was like near the end of our 3rd session. You were just like, okay, like let's just kill him. Me and Jim and Dan
I'm
are
sick
just
of this
laughing.
guy. Explode his head.
Yeah, we were all like, we were laughing your head off, and you were just like, let's just kill him. Like, I'm done. Let's just kill him. Because you were tired, but also like you're fed up with this guy who's like, I'm gonna give you like information. You're just like, nah, let's just kill him.
Yeah.
And honestly, it just made that experience so much more fun. And since then, I haven't played D&D since.
Yeah.
Have you played it since?
I've been playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess, which is a
Ooh.
dark fantasy game.
Okay.
That one, it's a lot less high fantasy than Pathfinder. Sort of like it's the kind of game where death is really, really, really like easy and quick. Like if you don't play it smart, you will fucking get exploded. And I kind of like that element, that more grounded element of like, yeah, a peasant stabbing you with a pitchfork can just kill you.
I mean, just in a random street.
In early levels.
Da-di-da-di-da. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
how dare you?
So yeah, I've been playing that with some buddies of mine. That campaign's going on like 1.5 years at this point. So
Oh wow.
yeah, it's a big dungeon. And yeah, I've been playing that with Sarah as my GM for that. Sarah being the
Yeah, I know.
yeah. You've met Sarah, but for our listeners, that is my co-founder for Evil Gazebo with
Yeah, that's also interesting because I kind of did want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Like you interested in starting your own little business, little
Yeah.
freelance, is it?
The it's our own little media company.
Mm-hmm.
We started with the gimmick of tabletop games.
Yeah.
Like that was like we make tabletop game video content. Ultimately that is a very oversaturated market. Like
Absolutely.
there's 1.5 million
like
D&D podcasts and actual plays and blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah blah.
Like for example, Critical Role
Yep.
or D20, that kind of stuff. Like they're big, they're massive.
So we decided, as Sarah has a background in punk music and DIY shows, that we would lean more into that. So now we predominantly, hold on, let me think about this. Marketing brain.
Marketing brain.
We make
Like music
Hold on,
videos,
like,
that kind of
give
stuff.
me a moment.
Music videos, gothic kind of style.
So yeah, we want to keep making short films.
Yeah,
but we
absolutely.
also want to make music videos for
Oh, yeah.
people. The ultimate goal is that we want to be paid for
Like
this
any
stuff.
filmmaker,
Yeah.
of course.
So yeah, our first production was originally going to be a tabletop show that's been put on the back burner, not abandoned, but not now.
Yeah.
We are going to be making a documentary on the Canberra punk / DIY hardcore scene.
Yeah, you talked about this.
Yeah. It's the Canberra hardcore scene is far bigger than you would assume. Like Canberra, most boring city in Australia. Like our main exports are fucking like the only things notable about Canberra is you can smoke weed, we make wine, we do politics, and we make porn.
I'm definitely going to censor that word. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm,
We make spicy videos.
we make adult content. How about
Yes.
that?
Apparently. I don't actually know anyone that's rumored.
I don't know if that's 100% true, but I wouldn't take it. Like, if you go down to certain bits
So
of
I've
Canberra,
heard.
there have been, like, there's a bunch of adult stuff. And
seedier
I was just
parts.
Anyway,
I'm not interested in that. I'm
let's
not
not
interested
talk about
in that.
Let's
I'm
not
not
go
doing
down
it.
that
Anyway,
road.
the point is
Yeah.
that the Canberra hardcore scene is far larger than you would ever assume.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I got some excellent footage from a DIY show, I believe it was called like For the Kids, where like there must have been like 80 or so people in that fucking crowd crammed in that little backyard.
In a backyard.
Enough to get a proper mosh pit going.
Whoa.
With like, there was this sick moment where like they brought the goddamn drummer out to the middle of the crowd.
Yeah.
He was doing their fucking thing, and then the crowd like started like swirling around like a whirlpool. Mosh pits are sick to film, and I got like awesome footage of this guy dressed as Spider-Man with like blood streaming out of his nose because he got like his face kicked in. Mosh pits are randy.
Did you get bumped a bunch of times?
No, I was well out of the splash zone. My buddy Sarah, she frequents these events and she knows where to stand, where is safe. I'd positioned myself like behind the band, so like I was safe there. That was fine.
Absolutely. Like that's so interesting that you're deciding to do a documentary on this. Like, because I was like, I have my own projects in the works, of course, as most people do. But when I first heard this, I was like, because that's very similar to one of the documents, like not the documentary that you pitched for early, like one of the first documentaries when we did documentary around at AIE. It's not similar to that, but I was just like, it's going to be very interesting and it's very online with the stuff you've already made. Yeah. Hold on, I'm getting a bunch of messages. What's going on here?
And my my buddy Sarah, the co-founder of Evil Gazebo Media, to show myself. She's great. She knows like basically every single band in Canberra, every like hardcore band, every punk band, and the like. We ran, or she ran rather, a little DIY gig called Touch Grass not long ago in I forget which tunnel, but the lineup for that was fun. That was a nice little event to shoot.
Okay.
So yeah, we want to get more into hosting these DIY events. And I'm not going to spoil stuff because stuff's been shifting around in the background, and I'm not going to say specific band names or whatever, but we are working on hosting our own DIY event, and I reckon it's going to be pretty big, like the spectacle of it. It has a gimmick, let's say that.
Okay.
It has a gimmick.
Does it have like the gothic kind of, or
it's not in theme.
kind of stuff?
It's not in theme.
Oh, it's not on theme? Okay.
It's I'm spoiling too much.
Oh,
I will not say.
Okay.
Things are still being secured.
Yeah.
Emails are being sent. But cool things are coming.
Well, that's awesome to hear. Just before like we finish, because I want to kind of briefly talk about this, like hearing that idea of the gothic thing, it's very online with your interest of like the weird, the spooky.
I'm an edgy bastard.
Yes, you are. Like your interest in mythology and religious stuff is so fascinating. Even just like some of the times that you would carpool me.
Yeah.
All that stuff you just talk about. I'm like, it's awesome to hear this kind of stuff, despite like my own beliefs and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So, like, what kind of interest does that kind of implement to your filmmaking or like interests?
So I believe that the most effective horror utilizes the familiar and twists it. It uses reality or elements of it. So I think that in horror, when you're dealing with ghosts and stuff, it lends it an added aura of legitimacy if you utilize real world belief, practice,
keeping it grounded
and mythology.
Keeping it grounded.
Yeah, because I can't help but roll my eyes when I'm watching a horror film and there's a demon in it and they make up their own guy. Like,
that's not based on real fact.
Like, I don't know. There's a balance to be made with like cultural sensitivity, of course. I'm not blind to that. Where like if you utilize real world belief, it can be uncomfortable to a lot of people. So I can understand why you wouldn't want to. That being said, I roll my eyes when in a horror movie they make up their own demon instead of like utilizing an actual,
like based off mythology, like Lucifer, Beelzebub, that kind of stuff.
Or even like some of the more niche guys. I also roll my eyes when they're just like, oh, it's Satan. It's like, I don't know, that's boring. Like, use one of the more niche guys.
Yeah.
There's like a gazillion of them.
Yeah, but it's always interesting to hear that because, like, I like listening to this stuff. It's not because I have my own beliefs and such.
I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
I just have a casual
Fascination
passing
for it.
interest in it.
Yeah, fascination for that kind of stuff because you're just like, if you go into that kind of area, like for example, Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman, all that kind of stuff, like the mythology and that kind of stuff. That stuff has kind of got me like hooked, despite it being against what I'm.
Of course,
like my personal beliefs and all that. I'm just like, it's so fascinating to see others' interpretations of these kind of things.
Yeah, and I would say that my upbringing has affected my interest in the occult because growing up, I was raised in a like pagan Wiccan household. And Wicca is a criminally misunderstood religion. It's both old and new. I'm not going to get into the history of it, but it is strange. But Wicca is the a religion which is a modern reconstruction of the traditions lost in Europe during the Inquisition, like during the witch burnings, trying to rebirth these practices which were labeled as like demonic or witchcraft or whatnot. In reality, it is just another nature worship religion. Predominantly, there are some edgy contrarian bastards, and Wicca is such a broad religion, such a broad set of beliefs that any one statement is incorrect. It is like, it's an umbrella term, it should be considered. But that led, and I will say, I don't necessarily believe in it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to me. And it's led to a broader interest in religion broadly, like in all practices, where I find the psychology behind belief and religion fascinating. Like why people believe what they believe, and like how beliefs shift and change, and how practice changes over time.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me. And a lot of names that you see in these texts of what is considered demons, they were considered gods back in the day. Like almost every single name in every classification of demons, they were things people worshipped. That was their god. And like later down the track, they were labeled as something else. Part of me wishes I would have done the religious studies course, not because I believe it, but because I find it interesting, and I find informing it. It informs my taste in horror and in fantasy, because I find it really lame how a lot of modern fantasy is based off of other fantasy.
Yeah.
Like a large majority of fantasy is just based off of like fucking Lord of the Rings, and like
I was gonna say Lord of the
that's
Rings, Harry Potter,
really
that
lame
kind
to
of
me.
stuff.
That's really lame to me. I think it's far more interesting if you base your fantasy off of real world mythology.
Yeah. And I mean, I can definitely see that, because there were some elements in Arca that you really wanted to delve
Yeah.
into that kind of bit as well.
I wanted to lean far more into the supernatural elements
Yeah.
of the setting, but and it did sneak in a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was a little bit too heady. I'll be honest. Is too like it overcomplicated
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And especially since it was a small thing and we were a small crew.
Yeah.
There was no way we could fit that much like supernatural elements without it being overbloated with
Yeah.
a project that is already like the biggest project we've ever worked on.
It was the right call to keep it more sci-fi than like the more fantastical mythological elements.
But I mean, you did get your necklace in.
Yeah.
You did get the necklace
I did
in.
sneak that in a little bit. It wasn't cut out entirely.
No. I made sure to keep that clip in because it looked the best. It looked really cool.
Because Arca was, I would say, predominantly, it's pretty much a fan project for SCP, I would say.
Yeah, it definitely had a lot.
Like, it doesn't use the names or whatever, but let's be honest. It's a fan project.
It definitely has a lot of SMP kind of feel.
SCP.
What did I say?
SNP.
SMP. No, that's not survival. No, not Minecraft stuff. No. Sorry. Yeah, so SMP stuff. There was what did I say it again?
Yeah.
No,
anyway.
I said SN. I said SC.
Whatever.
Okay.
This is fine.
Yeah, so
showbiz, baby.
There was a lot of that elements in Arca, and to be honest, I am super excited to when we officially release it. Despite the fact we don't even know when.
I'm pretty sure at the very least it is going to be shown at the Canberra Shore Film Festival. I'm pretty sure. I would be shocked if it wasn't.
Yeah. And I mean, besides that, just so we can wrap it up, you talked about the documentary.
Yeah.
You talked about your documentary. Is there anything else in the works, like project-wise, that you like can tease or anything like that?
Most of what we're working on is this, as of now, untitled documentary. We want to get some of the larger hardcore bands in Canberra involved. So that's been amazing. Reworking some stuff behind the scenes. The process is never clean and easy. These things happen. But as well as that, we are working on more DIY shows coming up. So look forward to those. Keep an eye on any bulletin boards in the city center. We will be hanging our posters up there. Other than that, a couple music videos we're looking at throwing together. A few things in the works. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really super excited to see what happens. Like, again, we work together so much. If you ever need help with that stuff, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I'm always available.
Yeah. And to learn more about what we're doing, I'm going to shill myself.
No, you can
That's
you can
okay.
you can do that.
Look
I'd love to
at
do
Evil Gazebo Media on Instagram. My own Instagram is Taylor Thomson Film. And yeah, cool shit in the works. I gotta say, I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'm super
There's going to be a
excited.
big year.
Yeah, I'm absolutely excited for you, man. Well, thank you, Taylor, so much for joining.
No
It's been a
problems.
blast.
I've loved it. Love a little bit of attention. If I do say so. No, I'm sorry.
No, it's absolutely right. Again, thank you so much, mate. It's been absolutely fun.
It's been a blast.
The YoungStars podcast was directed, produced, edited, and hosted by David Hathaway. Special thanks to The Shed for allowing us to use their studio to record these episodes. If you are interested in recording voiceover, music, or your very own podcast, then consider checking out The Shed on Facebook or via their website at theshed.org for more details. Thank you so much for listening to YoungStars, and until next time, stay creative. Bye!